Tamayomi splits its third episode into two sections. Its first section introduces two new characters, Ryo, a former Kendo champion looking to play baseball, and Nozomi, a baseball veteran, at first unconvinced of the team's dedication to winning. Once they both take batting practice and see Yomi's magic pitch, however, they agree to join, giving us 9 players and 10 girls overall to round out the team. The episode's second section sparks a more interesting discussion. Throughout the first part of the episode, Yomi intuits that Tamaki is giving her a cold shoulder, and when Tamaki asks to speak to Yomi as they're walking home, she expects the worst. Tamaki instead asks Yomi about her true motivation for playing. Yomi reveals that while she enjoys playing baseball for its own sake, she has aspirations of winning, much like Tamaki. Tama then reveals that her attitude of winning above all has been conditioned since middle school, where a drill sergeant coach instilled the necessity of winning at all costs to her players. But even though it remains her primary motivation, Tama struggles with the idea of winning at all costs, as playing catch with Yomi brings out a love for the game that she had buried during middle school. Cinderella 9 presents a similar tension between its two leads Tsubasa and Shinonome, with Tsubasa aligning with her redhead companion Yomi and Shinonome aligning with her black-haired companion Tamaki. But the disagreement starts with two absolute positions, Tsubasa believing that the only things that matter are participation and fun, and Shinonome believing that the only thing that matters is winning. Shinonome eventually develops nuance to her position, though Tsubasa's thoughts never really develop and are instead championed as the morally superior stance. Meanwhile, our leads in Tamayomi start with a nuanced dialogue, giving this discussion much greater potential than the discussion at the heart of Cinderella 9. Yomi plays baseball for the fun of it, partially because she carries hurtful memories of her middle school teammates dismissing her talents. Playing to win simply hasn't been an option for her up until this point. And Tama has grown enough to realize that winning at all costs doesn't necessarily benefit those that are playing, especially when she discovers a similar attitude led to the near dissolution of the club she's currently playing for. Though the struggle between participation and victory is a decades-old trope in this genre, Tamayomi colors the theme with details that Cinderella 9 did not. Switching gears now, Major Second didn't do all that much in its third episode. The biggest development we see is an evolving ideological struggle between Daigo and Anita, which at first was a struggle for the starting catcher role in the previous episode, but now could be a full-on battle for team control. Daigo's careful coaching bothers Anita to the point where she accuses him of not wanting to win, while Daigo attempts to placate Anita by having her join him on a scouting trip. This doesn't satisfy her decision-making desire, but after a failed campaign to get him removed from his position, she calls back her offensive and accepts her role as the de facto on-field captain instead of the official captain. Daigo uses soft motivation strategies to keep people in check, like when he demonstrates his abilities to hit fastballs and convinces the newcomer Akira to stay on until he can finally prove he's better than Daigo. He also convinces Sakura and Anita to work together, putting all his faith in his pitcher and preemptively placing blame on Anita should she fail to lead the battery to victory. Of course, Anita accepts this as a challenge without realizing that Daigo's actually empowering her to take control of the team's strategy. Possibly the best thing about Daigo as a player-coach is that he recognizes his own weaknesses and trusts that his teammates can fill in the gaps. Now that all 9 players have been set for both teams, including positions and lineups in Major, we'll probably see our first bit of gameplay next week, which is super exciting. The only baseball action I see nowadays comes from Taiwan and starts at 3 AM my time, and I'll happily take the fake drawn stuff as a reasonable substitution for the lost MLB season. One thing that probably needs to be addressed is how the pandemic might affect these two shows and anime production as a whole. As far as I can tell, at least 4 shows have been postponed this season, including Appare-Ranman, which I've heard is decently popular. All of Japan is now in a state of emergency, and there are fears that the government's slow reaction might mean that Tokyo is heading towards a New York City-level calamity. Like most anime production companies, both Major's Studio OLM and Tamayomi's Studio ACAT are located in Tokyo, and that doesn't bode well. I'm not going to pretend I know anything more about anime production beyond what I learned from Shirobako, so I can't possibly speculate on if these shows will get postponed or cancelled. I can browse through AniTwitter, however, where the question of which show will go down next has arisen many times over the past week. Tamayomi has come up more than a few times, mostly because the production looks bad to begin with, and Studio ACAT has only been making TV shows for the last 3 years. But to be honest, I'm more optimistic about getting 12 consecutive episodes from Tamayomi than I would be about getting 25 consecutive episodes from Major Second, seeing as that show would have to play into the summer to make it happen. A full summer anime slate would be a huge blessing in these content-starved times, but I'm not betting that it's going to happen. To speculate any further would be unproductive. I don't know what's going to happen, and there's a very good chance that any of the 10 people listening to this doesn't know what's going to happen either. all we can do is hope for the best and watch Taiwanese baseball in the meantime.